Here.
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 Here. Went backwards. I don't like it.
I made some changes to the budget we spoke about a few weeks ago, and they basically were changes just with regard to the current profit and loss. As numbers changed the past few weeks, I updated. A few of them I found, like I had left loggers out of the fire department payroll, and then one other one I had to adjust the payroll on street because I'd left out health insurance. So I found some errors that I'd made, but mostly they are updates pursuant to the current profit and loss. The PD has had some additional income, and their ticket numbers have increased significantly too, so that's going to help their overall. I'm sorry.
Okay, what did the
02.
3202 increase from the 49,227? It went up 5 from there.
Yes. I'm not sure I'm looking at the same thing you're looking at. Let me pull that up here. Yes, we received a significant check last week from the treasurer over at Newton County. So.
Okay, and I read in there is that based on, in this one, it said it's based on call volume?
Yes, we get a
Tax is based on call volume, so if our call volume's double, then that money should double.
So the overall percentage that is allotted to the municipalities is distributed to those municipalities based on their numbers. In the past, Seneca has just heads and tails above everybody else because they've had such significant call volume up there has gotten the majority of that, of those allotted sums.
Call volume in Diamond pulls everybody over that comes through town.
Oh, yeah.
If I had to guess.
Oh.
I would 100% say that's it.
So our numbers have increased there a little bit, so that's good. I feel like I'm kind of hopping around, so if I'm moving
I like it.
along.
As long as you hop around to all the things that I highlighted, you're good. 'Cause
Okay.
that was the first thing I had highlighted.
Okay, good. The fire department, I decreased that line 7110 because Chief Murphy was able to, take care of the items that he had requested on this next budget, within this budget, for a fraction of what he thought it was going to cost. So I was able to remove.
Jumping back to the PD, the line 7005, the city attorney, so that's an expense. The expenses increased by 3,000?
Yes, but we've gone from 5 tickets a month to 40.
Right.
And so that increases that attorney.
Which one are we on? I'm lost again.
We're on the first page.
I'm looking at this right here.
Okay,
Oh, yeah, that's the changes, I'm sorry.
And then page 1 and 2 of the budget, the police column.
okay.
So I feel like
Well, you
since,
just made me feel better.
Did you get it?
Just by asking?
So the
I
Yeah.
was a little lost, but then I found my.
Okay.
3202 is on the first page.
Yeah.
And that was the extra income.
This pen's making
So,
me a mess.
okay, so we pay based on the number of tickets that we have to process. Is that with the prosecutor? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
yes.
Wait, is that just paying him to be here? Or is there another line that's paying him as well?
It is just court. PD pays the prosecuting attorney for court hours. It's a conflict for court to pay the prosecutor.
Okay,
So it has to come from the PD.
okay.
And I anticipate, actually, I'm kind of hopeful that that number that, line 7005, I probably undershot it now that we're talking about it, because if our ticket numbers increase that drastically, that amount, that line item.
But conversely, so will our court
Yes.
income, right? So
That's
it's-
accurate.
Are people paying their tickets? Are we?
Are they being assessed tickets?
Yes.
Yeah, they had double the amount of people in court today as they had last month.
It was busy when I was
It
here.
was. And typically, court, over the past 10 years, has taken 45 minutes to an hour, and they're done, and it's been taking 3 and 4 hours, so, I mean, they're processing a lot of stuff.
And those are only the people that don't just go pay their ticket
Yeah.
online
Yeah,
or whatever.
yeah. And we do have those too. The fire department, I decreased that capital outlay number by 7,500.
Let us find fire department first.
Sorry, it's the very last
It's the
column
same
on page
column,
1 and 2.
Same
Oh.
form, last column. The Same as the police, it goes police,
Yeah.
court, and fire.
So line item 7110 is capital outlay, and I did have 10,000 there, because that's how much Chief Murphy had requested. Well, he was able to get his wish list accomplished for a fraction of that, so. However, in speaking with the mayor earlier, I think that 2,500 capital outlay may need to be increased based on information he received today.
You gonna
About-
elaborate on that?
Oh, yeah,
Well-
so I got,
Just waiting for him to.
so when I found out that the tornado siren wasn't working, I started calling around, finding people to fix them, and I found a company that came and looked at it 2 weeks ago, and I got the bid for fixing it yesterday, and it's, you know, and with like last year, you guys got a bid for replacing it for like 30 grand, right?
Yeah, it was high 20,000.
Yeah, it was 30 grand. So to fix it by this company, it's $2,200.
To fix it?
To fix it.
Fix it.
What, it's got 3 motors on top of it, and only one of the motors is burnt out. It's just don't work. Now, he sent me 3 invoices. One of them was to fix the tornado siren for $2,200 if we can get a bucket truck, and then the other one was to upgrade the
Volume?
no the.
Digital
Go
accessing
digital
to-
instead of analog
Okay.
on the, you know.
And that includes, that's all 22, or is
No,
there
no,
an
no, no, no.
additional
That's,
charge?
this is the second invoice. Second invoice was for $8,000, and I think we wait on that one and see if it works fine the way it was, you know,
Yeah.
before. All the other ones are working.
Yeah, I would just say let's fix it.
You know, with their thing said, you know, there could be sunspots, you know, or
And I'm not
reflections off of Venus or something, and might interfere with it. I don't know.
I'm not sure that we don't maybe need to have some discussions with Central Dispatch about that one.
Yeah, because it did mention that there was a, okay, you guys are gonna make me look up the thing and read it, because it's really small. It mentioned something that was passed a few years ago that upgraded everybody to digital.
And while
Anyway.
you're looking for that, let's note, they are not tornado sirens, they are emergency sirens, and it does not mean they go off all the time.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah, that's true. They're
It's for
emergency sirens.
outside people, not people sitting in their house on their couch.
Yeah.
Although I can hear them in my house.
I usually can too.
I live out in the country and I can hear the sirens on the other
Okay,
side.
they're,
of the-
sorry, radio
bridge
decoders,
that they have.
current controllers are over 40 years old. They're only supposed to last for 15 to 20 and should have been replaced in 2013 when the FCC mandated that all public safety communication frequencies should be narrowband and not wideband, which is what ours are. And then they sent, so the proposal was for their Serotrol siren controllers, and to replace those on all of our stuff would be I'm looking at what $7,800.
7,800. So I guess my question is, who's responsible for the bandwidth upgrade? You know, is it,
Yeah, we could call on that
Us.
one. I don't
So-
think that's I
Right.
think we ought to pull the trigger, my opinion. We ought to pull the trigger on getting it fixed. And the third invoice they sent was an annual maintenance contract, would be an annual maintenance thing with them. $1,000 a year to do annual maintenance on all three of them. And they said that they have been without for as long as they have, and since they're so old, we can preserve them for, quite they said they're good sirens. They're old, but they're really good. And he said they have to have grease and maintenance and,
So how
stuff
often would they
blown out.
maintenance it? If we're paying $1,000 a year, how often will they come and maintenance it?
I would think once,
Like every February and
yeah, once a year. I'm sure it's once a year.
before the season would be,
Yeah.
yeah, that's probably.
or if
why
they
it's-
don't, if something happens and they stop working, we would call them as well.
Yeah.
That's not budget today, right?
Right.
That would be next year's budget, but the one that we need to pull the trigger on would be for last year's budget, right? It's gonna be on last year's budget, the
Yeah, if we order it
2,200?
right now, we could go ahead and put it in last year's budget for the fire department, and it's an emergency as far as I'm concerned. I do feel like that, it being in working condition could be considered an emergency expenditure. That's at the mayor's discretion.
Yeah, but it gives I'll print all this stuff off and give it to you guys, but what the annual maintenance thing does, but it's, inspection of everything and the cabinets and the
Well,
integrity.
could that be on
and the-
tomorrow's budget or agenda and we discuss it and get it approved then?
The annual maintenance and the siren, or
Mhm.
just the annual maintenance? Both,
Whatever needs to be on there.
okay.
For next year or for,
Tomorrow's meeting.
yeah, but, fixing it doesn't have to be on the meeting, right?
Well-
No, it doesn't.
So the annual maintenance, let's go ahead and put on the agenda
Yeah.
for tomorrow night, and we can address that. My personal opinion is the mayor should authorize the siren to go ahead, just proceed
Yeah,
with
I agree
repairs to
too.
that.
I agree
Okay,
with
so
that.
yeah, so,
Yes.
and tomorrow I can call Newton County Emergency
Get it
Management and
done.
find out about the wideband, narrowband thing.
Okay.
And that way let's just put
Maintenance,
emergency siren on the
okay,
agenda and we'll know. what
And
we're
discuss
talking
it,
about.
okay,
And we'll pull the trigger on the getting it fixed.
wonderful.
Okay, back to this.
Sorry.
I adjusted their sales tax based on what their current is. And it was just misclassed when it was put into the system. And so I've gone through and done some cleanup on those deposits. And so that was where that difference came from. It was a error adjustment. And then the payroll was adjusted on fire department because I had left out loggers.
So it's 36 something for
Yes.
income, right? Okay.
Yes. That 36,883 is their quarter cent. And that made me think of this also, and Mayor Elder and I had discussed this earlier in the week. And I'm gonna have Sandra put it on this agenda also, with the mayor's permission, that we transfer funds to CDs.
Oh, yeah.
we have some funds that probably need to be in some interest-bearing accounts that are like, our money markets right now are at 1 point.
It's the water
0.01.
upgrade fees. We got over $200,000 right now, and it's not making much
Yeah, it's
where
not,
it's at.
it's
So
about 1% right now.
since we don't start using out of that until the project's complete, then it might as well be making us money.
Yeah. I feel like that's doing our due diligence with the people's money.
Agreed.
There. That was a sidetrack, sorry. Parks. The same thing on that line item 3050 that was, same as the fire department. There's something was just misclassed, and in cleanup I found it and put it where it belonged. And then line 3900 and line 3910, those were updated today based on this week's deposits, which have been pretty significant for Park Annual Mining Town Days. So I went ahead and made those changes. And I've moved on to page 3, I'm sorry, page 3 of your budget.
Yes.
Sanitation, the same as fire department, that line 3050. Line 3100 was increased based on an adjustment of classification. So not any big changes there. Street, I adjusted the payroll. I had left off employee health insurance off that payroll. I'm just moving right along, so if you guys have any questions, holler.
Yeah, what, you were on,
I was on street just then. I adjusted the payroll. I guess I should have indicated that on page 6, the total overall, which is PD, court, fire department, parks and sanitation, and then general other, the total overall is our net is 19,075. I don't know, that doesn't seem like a whole lot of money at the end of the year after all of our income and expenditures. Typically, we land a whole lot better than that. Not always, it's happened in the past that we haven't, but typically we land a whole lot better than that overall. But because this is a revenue, these are revenue accounts are based on sales tax revenue and real estate revenue. You know, the more people shop local, the more we can encourage people to do business right here in Granby. That end number looks better. The more we can put back into our parks and our fire department, our police department. And move on to street. As I'm looking at street, I notice that on the,
Are we on page 10 now?
I'm sorry, page 7 and page 8.
Okay. Well, that's not streets.
it's not street on ours.
Mine is.
That's why I've been confused.
Yeah, it's not mine
7 and
either.
8.
Mine's just
Mine is.
general government. It's not streets. Streets is the next one.
That's page 5.
Did
though,
you
look
guys
down the
bring
bottom right.
paperwork in with you?
Yeah.
Or is this
No,
what?
this is what was in my packet. This is what's page 7.
Oh, no.
Page 10 is streets.
I brought mine in with me. This is what mine looks like.
That?
Yeah, his is like,
Yours looks like mine.
See, it says streets.
Yeah, this is what mine looks like. That's why I was like, did you guys bring in your own?
I did, I was reading off my stuff from the last meeting.
Is that it? Well, then maybe I did. Read that back.
Is that on mine?
Nope.
All right, what page are we on?
This is one we're using, right?
7, 8.
Yeah, on my packet's correct, yeah.
But I don't have any highlights on this one.
I know, that's what I was like, what the heck?
Well, these are brand new. I didn't highlight anything for you.
No, we highlighted
No, I
things that we
highlighted
were
things on the
questioning.
other
I'm sorry. We can go back and discuss those after we go over this if you want to, or if you have any questions. As I'm looking at page number 8 on my expenditures, line number 7062, repair and maintenance line system, I carried over unspent funds for street repairs. But I imagine we probably want to include additional monies there for street repairs, not just what we haven't spent so far from this current budget. So we can leave this as is and amend it as we know what additional costs are gonna be. We can go in and amend the budget at any time, but I'm open to your thoughts. I can go in and change it right now and print off new. And I wish I had caught that
I'm so
sooner.
confused.
I'm open to amending it
Okay.
whenever we need to,
As needed.
yeah, as needed.
So line number 7062 says repair and maintenance line system, 31,250. I carried the balance over that was
What
unspent.
was the balance?
31,250.
So you didn't add any more to it?
I didn't add
What-
any more
What was
to
the
it.
original start last year?
65, I think.
So why wouldn't we put 65 there instead of carrying over?
Because we didn't use it.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, I didn't use that 31,250. We used 29. That don't make me
Right,
brain math.
right.
But I don't have an answer. I was like, I just split the difference there. I was like, oh, we haven't spent 31,000 and moved it over.
She only
It-
moved forward what?
I only
I
moved forward
understand.
what we hadn't spent. I do think
But
we
that's not what
should
she's doing on everything else, is why my question.
Yeah.
Right. I look at a whole lot of numbers when I'm doing this.
Oh, I
and
know.
sometimes something in my brain just doesn't click when I'm carrying those numbers over.
Well, I mean, here's.
But I
the
mean,
di-
if we had 65,000 last year to spend on that, do we have 65,000 this year as well?
Yeah.
So why would we not put 65 there and know that we had,
That we
we
have
didn't
that.
have the 31 that
And
we
I
spent?
can't say that right now. I can't say that, yes, we do. I can go look if you want me to go look, but standing here, I can't say, yeah, we can spend another 65,000. I would hesitate to do that.
Well, I meant, no,
Right,
no,
it
no,
would just
my,
be another
it was just
30.
to say 65 for this year and knowing that we had the 31
To put-
remaining.
To apply also.
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying. We can do that. I can fix this right now, and we can make that part of the original budget.
Well, because
if it
we certainly want
allows.
to put money on our streets. Our
Oh, no
citizens want us
doubt.
to put money into our streets, and it needs to happen.
Well, it is happening. You see CH Seal Coating going all over town, filling
Right, but that's
potholes
not,
and putting stuff.
no, they're not filling potholes.
Sure they are.
Yes.
They're filling potholes all over town.
The big ones?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, they're not doing stuff that needs to be repaved, but they're hot sealing
Okay,
our,
okay, where's our priority? Because why is this spot right out here
I have no clue.
being taken care of instead of a street
I
down
don't-
somebody's
There
Driveway.
are
driveway?
two, there's one up on Blow Street right now, they've got a cone sitting there waiting for repair right there.
Now, is
It's
that our
down.
repair, our cities, our street guys,
No,
or we're
our-
paying
they're-
somebody
they're
outside?
They're getting the bigger ones, the deeper ones that can't be done, the ones that they're having to street cut.
Mm-hmm.
CH is doing that, and they're doing hot seals. They're cutting their concrete, or they're cutting their road, they're putting down oil, then they're putting down the patch, then they're steamrolling it, and so it'll last longer.
Are we bidding that out anywhere else then?
No, we have not been. They've been doing it as they go seal the
Yeah,
cracks.
they do it as they go.
As they go.
Because I know it's gonna look like a conflict of interest.
So we can stop right now and start taking bids on that.
I just know that we need to notate that we know that that's an issue.
But didn't we approve it? We approved at the time for them to seal the cracks in the street and to repair the holes.
Make
as they
repairs
went.
as necessary is
That-
what,
To an
That was a-
amount, up to an amount, correct?
Yes.
Right.
I don't remember.
Have
what
we
the
exceeded
amount-
that amount? Have we added to that amount?
no,
Okay.
we've not increased that amount at
Okay.
all. He has never expended the total
I'm
amount
not
that was
saying that they're
allowed.
not doing a good job. I'm
Right,
just
I
trying to
know.
cover bases.
I know. And they have not expended, as a matter of fact, I think it's cost us surprisingly far less than I thought it was
Oh,
gonna
yeah,
cost.
yeah, for sure,
So-
I agree with you 100%.
Okay.
I mean, it's a whole lot cheaper than the concrete that was laid on Main Street.
Yeah. And,
Then why the
and,
comment about let's do something? We ain't doing anything. We're doing stuff. We are doing stuff.
That's not what I said.
Like that.
Yeah, I'm saying, yeah, I've seen that there's been things done, but there's a lot of people that are complaining to us, of me, aldermans, why isn't this done on my road? Why is it focused in one spot? So, how do we resolve that? As far as, do we tell our citizens, if you have a complaint, you call in and call in a work order? Tell them that there's an issue with your street.
Yeah, they still need to do that because our guys can go fix, you know.
Minimal, yeah.
Minimal
Yeah. Mhm.
with a cold patch, and they should be doing that.
I'm telling you, citizens have said, I'm always told, we're not doing anything until the water system's in, and we're not gonna have to redo a street again. So,
there are
We're not
streets
gonna
that
get
we
their full
won't.
street done.
Now,
Oh, for sure.
High Street with the level of destruction on that street, you can't fill that with
right,
with
like
cold
Center
patch.
Street, the corner of that's been an
Right.
issue
There's-
forever.
But like, here's an example. Right across from the park, what is it, Grove and Little Mill? The
Yeah,
intersection there,
Yeah,
that's
it's
got the
bad.
potholes that are like this deep that you lose your front suspension in it, like 2 of those. Like, I got with Jim and I said, look, we
Yeah.
gotta find a way
yes, I agree.
to patch. I understand if it's a long, you know, like High Street's got long patches that are, you know, but it doesn't
Right.
harm the suspension of a car if you're going through there. So they're having CH go down there and cut and
Fill,
hot seal
okay.
all of that. So, you know what I mean? So
Okay, so let's go back to the 65,000 there instead of 31.
agreed. I'd agree with that.
Yeah.
But, and I think we ought to keep CH
Yeah,
working, and that's what the plan was, for them to keep going section by section in the city if we keep the money going to them.
So he has been discussing with Jim which quadrant of the city to work in. And so that discussion has been going on between the two of them, to my knowledge. And then
go
an update as requested, like there was a request at Little Mill and Park to fix the giant pothole there. So I think he moved over there to work over there. But I think he's trying to methodically do some stuff. Now, he specifically pulled up here the other day and he said, if you don't do something with your parking lot, you're gonna lose your parking lot. And I asked him how much it would be, and he said less than 700. And so I said, please fix it.
Nice.
We can't afford to lose a parking lot.
yeah.
And
That's
especially
kind of
where
where
people
we're
are
at the
coming.
park, the lane in the park. It's horrible because of the water runoff.
Yes.
And we asked previously that did he bid it? I can't remember. It's been like
At the
last year.
park?
Yeah. Yeah, because that might be something we need to work on as well.
So, also, because I don't know if we discussed that with them about High Street, right? I kept mentioning High Street. So we had CH.
Yes.
Because I went up there and drove on it, and it's awful. It really is, like a World War I battlefield on that road. And so those people got rights to complain. But the whole deal is, it's so bad.
That the whole street's gonna need it done, just kind
Right.
of like Tower.
I
But
asked,
then
I
I
asked
fear,
CH to do a bid for chip and sealing High Street. Just,
yeah,
and then I've also asked OWN to give us an overlay of their master plan that shows any streets in town that will not be affected by the water thing, so that we know that we can
fix,
repair them
Yeah.
without danger of them digging them up. Well, High Street is gonna get dug up, so the $18,000 bid for chip and seal in High Street is out. We can't chip and seal it.
have we
It's
checked that on
it's like
Tower as well
throwing the
then?
money out
Can we
the
check
window.
that for
Yeah,
Tower
we
as
check
well? Because it's horrible. But then I want to say, throw in some speed bumps because that's the road that everybody's just whizzing down and,
Tower?
yes, it's horrible.
I got 3rd-degree burns from a hot coffee spill from a chug.
Yeah,
My sister hit it, and my coffee was like.
Well, hey, you guys feel free to call in. You guys drive over them. I mean, just like I did. I drove through there and I'm like,
Yeah,
that ain't,
yeah,
that.
that's- yeah.
If it's a normal, I don't call Jim on ones that are just like bumps, you know?
right.
But I mean, it was like,
It's a crater.
Well, that's just what I handled her with some things that I'd seen. For example, 60 Highway and Little Mill Road, the tree has grown over the stop sign. You come down Little Mill and you don't see the stop
Yeah,
sign.
call that stuff in.
Yeah.
I mean, someone stopped me when I was painting the other day and
Old
said, hey, you know,
cemetery,
with this
it's
road, we
same way.
can't see around the corner.
Yeah,
So,
The bridge down on Park.
yes,
and I
so,
called that work order in to Sandra
Yeah.
myself, you know, because the lady stopped me and said, we can't see to turn out of our driveway, you know, so little stuff like
back
that.
to budgets, right, Lana?
Yeah.
Oh, so itchy.
I do feel like we cover a lot of stuff.
We do, we do.
Got a lot going on. Sewer,
I'd just like to state for the record, it was Doreen that got us off track.
9.
originally.
Stop
Page
yourself
9.
right there.
page 9. I will update that. So if the board chooses to approve this budget today, we'll need to state, I move to approve with changes. Because I'm gonna make at least that change. Sewer, just updated the income based on, adjustments. There was no changes to gas. And then line 3100 on water, which is, I mean, I jumped way ahead because I made a lot of changes. That is page 9. Line 3100, which is utility sales on water. I had a big adjustment on that one, and it was because it was not classed correctly when deposits were done. So I had to go in and make some changes. So it looks like a significant increase in income. It's not a significant increase in income. It didn't have a class assessed to it, so it was just floating around out there.
And that was which fund?
Water.
So it's actually gonna be more and not less?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Line 3100, I increased it 13,000. And these were all on one deposit in May, and it was just, when they put it into the utility collection account, they didn't specify where that went. And so when I found it, I just went in and made those adjustments, and it was an easy fix. QuickBooks marks it as unclassified, and so when I go in and do a report for unclassified, it says you need to go fix this. And so, any questions so far?
I'll tell you about it later.
All right, so what's the bottom line? So expenses,
For
that's just proprietary, what,
So our total, where we land overall at the end of 2026, our net is $437,319. That's overall.
Where are you finding that
tax city
number?
Granby. That's page 12 of 12. And the previous board had passed
what?
That's not what I see.
That's on my 12.
page 12, total all funds, right there at the top. Does everybody have that? And
Oh,
then there's
total all funds.
Say the number again?
$437,319.16.
Okay, that's to the good.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's
Everything. That's all of our numbers combined.
and 397 is total expenses? or-
Total proprietary, which means sewer, water, gas. That's the total net income for sewer, water,
Okay, I
and
guess what I'm
gas.
looking for is total expenses, total,
Okay, so your
funds.
total expense will be on page 11. That was a lie, I apologize. Page 11 shows your total income of your proprietary, and then page 12, that bold number there, the $2,454,564.39 are your total expenses, with net income of $437,319.
I mean, I guess it's a big number.
It is.
I mean, we shouldn't be in the making money business. I mean, that's water upgrade fees and
Right.
all that?
So that's including the water upgrade fees. That's also including the increase that we've seen recently on the sewer project. But we've got a lot of bills coming up that we also have to pay for those.
Okay.
So.
And we're not necessarily making money, we've got to have that in a reserve
Okay, yeah.
for
So
upkeep.
I guess I want to make sure that,
Yeah. So.
What was last year's? Can we compare that?
that's right. here.
Yes. Do you have it?
I got, I think. If you gave it to us last week, I got it.
I have, QuickBooks open and I can just do a quick report that shows total profit and loss for the year overall.
Okay.
So are we starting out in the hole in any place, no place?
Yeah, I think that's a closed session item, I think, honestly.
For what? This one?
Yep.
So we can talk about that. I assume I know what you're talking about. I apologize. We can talk about that, increasing the budget to increase our court clerk position 10 hours per week.
That's not
She's at
what we were
30.
talking about.
Okay.
Oh.
I don't, yeah.
No, that's already at the
Page
bottom
one
of
of
the.
one. The
I'm
very
sorry.
last page, page one of one.
This is
The-
what we were looking.
Oh,
We're talking about that.
yeah, we can talk about that. We just can't name names. All of that is public information.
Oh, but do you want to talk about the thing at the bottom that's highlighted about the Savannah's
Savannah.
additional hours?
So that's on
We can
this
do that.
page, yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm trying to do three different things at once.
You're all right.
Oh, great, printed front and back. I love when that
Okay.
happens.
Tree hugger.
Thank you.
Oh, no, this has all the grant money on it. Oh,
Yeah, it has.
yeah, that makes my head spin.
It shows our net income this year at $715,604. We just sent out our last payment to McClanahan, I believe, and it was $446,000 or something like that. So our net income is going to be similar this year to what it was last year. And we did have lots of grant income and grant expense in this one, but overall, that net income is going to be very similar.
Okay, there was a thing in the packet that you gave us before that had some stuff that Victor wanted, wish list. There's a memo.
I included that in his budget. I think I have that one.
What about the leftover 150 grand or whatever that we still have from the sewer project? What?
We have
can
spent
any-
all but 2,300 of that.
Okay, so
And
we're
those
we're
were-
down, we're down to 2,300 now.
Yes.
All right.
And the majority of that came back to Granby, by the way, so, which is excellent, grant monies, so. We were able to reimburse the sewer fund, quite a bit. Thankfully, they needed it, the sewer fund was in need. So, my notes have said that, why don't I have sewer in there? I don't have On my notes, I don't have sewer. I know that Victor had asked for some significant items, and I did put those in his budget, but I don't have that in
Okay.
front of me.
Well, I mean, it was with our stuff from the packet that you
was in our
gave us last
packet
time.
from last.
It was 3,800 for a sludge pump, 5,600 for a meter and a probe, and a spare pump for Hebron and Tower for 7,500. Yeah. So total was 17,000. So if you put it in the budget.
Now I'm second guessing myself, so I'm gonna go look. Yes, capital outlay 17,000. And with most of the moving parts budgets, I anticipate that that number will not. Victor usually does need replacement parts or something like that. That stuff gets worn out pretty quick because it's run through the ringer, literally. So, but I did allow 17,000 for his specific request. If the board,
The- We all, just looking at unfilled positions, don't we also have, we'll have an unfilled position there, right?
so, yes and no, I left, Deb in there just as a space filler because that's not a newly created position.
Second one.
That's her.
Okay.
So, yes and no.
I get you.
I just left it in there for that. I will say I have offered that position to Ms. Jackson, and she's accepted, so.
Well, the deal about Savannah was, that's why I wanted to bring up the deal with Savannah. Savannah's gonna jump over into, Sandra's spot.
Into Sandra's
and
spot.
Be the first face in the window, because she has what I would call spectacular customer
Oh, yeah,
service
she's great
skills.
at
I'm
customer service.
extremely
Spectacular.
impressed with
So are we gonna,
I think she's following me though. I keep seeing her.
Yes, and then we'll hire a utility clerk
She gets everything she knows from me.
to fill out the office.
I have offered the other position to somebody else this morning, and I'm waiting to hear back. So Sandra accepted.
is it somebody that we've seen their stuff from?
No, I have not received a plethora of applicants. I think I have 4 applications. So, this one, she has experience in the License Bureau. On 2 different occasions, she was hired back by the administrator of the License Bureau once the election. You know, License Bureaus, when they get
Yep.
a new governor, everything changes. But she was hired back by her previous employer when she was reappointed that position. To me, that spoke volumes about the type of employee she is, so. I don't want to talk, I don't want to tell anybody who it is yet because she hasn't told her boss, but I was really pleased with the interview and anxious for a full house in there. I was appointed as the city collector 3 years ago, and I would like to reappoint that position to Savannah, much like Caitlin was the court clerk and the city collector. Savannah would be the court clerk and the city collector, so she would take all monies that come in and then be our court clerk.
You mentioned this is just because you mentioned another position. You mentioned the pro tem thing. Is that something that I just need to sign, or do we all need to vote on it tomorrow? Do we need to put that on the agenda?
No, I think it's a January 1st thing, and I don't think we need to redo that except January 1st.
Okay, so I don't, just
yeah, we're good.
switching the position doesn't,
Right.
all right.
Great. Well, I was under the impression that, which.
That with
I
the
don't
new
want-
mayor.
No,
Yeah.
That's
I don't
why
want
we
to
were
say-
looking to see if.
I just
Yeah.
wanted
The
to,
new mayor
you know,
was-
make
Yeah.
sure.
No, I think it's a January 1st appointment, and it just, the board votes on it.
Okay.
Sounds good.
That's the rule.
I did get an email from Patty at Region M Monday that all has been approved by Missouri DNR for the grant project for the city, so we can move forward with that
But the
starting July
money's not
1st.
coming till later.
Yeah, well, so July 1st, and so, the thing about Region M, and we've done it quarterly just for ease of reports, but you can request reimbursement at any time once you've expended the money. So if we put somebody in that position in the first week, we could ask for reimbursement every payroll period if we needed to. Typically, we don't, just because, like I said, ease of reports, but
What did we end up getting on the grant?
68,000.
68,000.
Thanks to Wendy. Wendy Elder did a great job.
Yeah.
So just so everybody knows, and this will be, I mean, when it comes, did we finish the duty description on that position yet? Because we
I don't
talked,
know. We did- we talked
what we're
about it.
planning on doing is they're not gonna be full-time recycle, it's gonna be recycle 20 hours-ish, or whatever needs to be done down there, and then they're gonna be parks. So they'll handle, all the different parks.
What do you mean by handle all the different
Not
parks?
handle, I mean, like Levi's taking great care of those ballparks,
Mhm.
on maintenance and stuff, but he can do maintenance and work down at the ball fields, or Dick Smith
Help with
Park,
mowing
or
or
Veterans
parks.
Park, or community building. or-
Painting railings at the park.
My back hurts.
I was really sad to drive away when you guys were doing that this
Hey,
morning.
by the way, those
We
railings.
started at
At
6:30.
least
Oh,
three-quarters
yeah.
of that
That's when the
railing needs to
decision, we
be
finished at 8:45.
We've discussed it
Okay.
multiple
There-
I
times.
think we
not
knew
bad.
that.
I mean, it was
My
bad, don't get me
hand
wrong.
in some of them railings.
I'm back.
And that's kind of,
It's,
We did
yeah,
the
it's a
gloves.
liability, for sure.
I think we got a bid on that a few years ago, and it was cost prohibitive
I might have
at
to go
that
back
point.
and touch up some
But I don't know why we couldn't.
It's not gonna get better.
Right.
Metal is expensive right now.
But we do
Who
agree.
did we get bids from?
The people that did the railing at the park, at Veterans Park, and then it would have been somebody else that Jim knew, because he reached out to different
Yeah,
people.
I'm pretty sure it's the guy that does my pipe fencing.
Yeah.
'Cause
They do a great
'cause we
job.
knew, I mean, fantastic.
Yeah.
But his most prohibitive thing is the metal.
Hey,
The
that
metal,
paint's gonna,
the metal cost is crazy.
that paint's gonna make it last another 10 years.
Yeah, it's
Good
gonna
to
be
go.
good. It's
Good
gonna
to
be
go.
good.
That bucket of paint?
The
to
bucket
go.
of paint
Solid,
has
saved the day.
rejuvenated that thing. It's shining down there. Unless you look at the backside.
I don't know. I thought we were doing differently this year, and not just the 3%.
Well, here's the deal, we can talk about that. So, a couple of months ago, I mentioned it to all the department heads, that we wanted to
Yep,
do targeted pay raises, but however, close that. To do targeted pay raises, you need an evaluation process.
mhm.
And you can't, in my opinion, it would be almost impossible to say this guy gets 1%, this guy gets 3%, this guy gets 4%, without something in writing somewhere that says this guy did good, this guy
And
did
as far as
bad.
that goes, the same.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Otherwise, it looks arbitrary
We
and.
just started, we worked here for.
I don't know, I think people-
Okay, but-
People could easily complain.
Why should they?
But we gave 7% last year.
Agreed, which for
So-
everybody.
Yeah. Do we want to do 3? Do we want to do 2? Do we want to do 1?
And
Wow.
like the guy that's like, our new employees, I don't think that they should.
Yeah, if they haven't been here less than,
6 months is their probationary term, so if they're
Yeah.
still on probation, I
They
think I
wouldn't
said that last year too.
Okay.
If they're still on probation, they're not eligible for an
Okay.
increase yet.
Just that was just one of the ones that caught my eye.
The
yeah,
3%.
'cause so yeah, this one's brand new. He shouldn't get an increase at all.
Right. Which one?
Right under Chief Murphy.
Oh, the new kid? Caleb, yeah.
We're not supposed to say names.
No, I didn't.
Also,
I was talking about my cousin.
Mm-hmm. I would really much rather not do this in front of everybody. This should be,
Well, if you're gonna do merit-based, then this doesn't apply. This just doesn't apply. Because this is an across-the-board cost of living. And so,
I think if we do across the board cost of living with the caveat of if they're in their probationary period, they don't get anything.
right.
It needs to be enough to cover cost of living increases, or I mean, inflation increases. And if you look at the consumer price index increases and all that kind of stuff for 2025 going into 2026, it's going to be 3-ish%, maybe a little higher. But it's been, I mean, like for 21, 22, 23, it was like 7 and 8% for like 3 years in a row. So I thought that last year, I understood last year is the city trying to compensate for that.
So last year, we were just trying to stay in the ballgame. I think the inflation was around 9%, and we did a 7% increase. I'm guessing those numbers are not in my brain for,
What do you base the percentage that you request on? I mean, what do you actually look at, like, those annual numbers that I'm talking, that we're talking about?
so it's
inflation and all that?
2.5% for 2025. Let me go back and look, hold on.
I'm just, like, 3% of $15 an hour versus 3% of $25 an hour is a huge jump.
I'm sorry, my brain was somewhere else. I didn't hear what you said.
I said 3% of a $15 an hour job is a huge jump when you go to $25 an hour at 3%.
Inflation is 3.2% right now.
And we have a couple on here, I see that they're making exactly the same thing. But yet, we have one of them being raised to 1653 and the other one being raised to 1750.
That's the change, remember she just said?
Yeah, but then we also have where's the other 1751 gonna be? I mean, we have that one going from 15 to 1545, is that going to raise her up higher? I'm
No.
kinda like Doreen, I'd really rather discuss this in closed
Yep.
session.
Yeah,
So wages are not considered a closed session topic.
but it's personnel that we're
But
talking about.
personnel
Right.
is.
Yeah.
So if you're talking about the amount we're paying that position, then we can talk about it and should talk about it in public. If we're talking about a certain individual's job performance, again, that's not
Performance.
cost of living.
Right.
That's,
what you guys are talking about, right?
I think we ought to go on job performance myself. I'll just be quite honest, because somebody might deserve 4%, and there might be somebody that's
You're
standing
right,
around with a
but
finger up their nose.
it's what I said earlier. I talked to
Yeah.
all the department heads 2 months ago, though, and I said, there has to be evaluations. There has to be,
That's not,
you were counseled on this and you were told that you needed to do better. You didn't do better, you're only gonna get 1%. You are fantastic. Everything I said to do, you did it, and you did extra. You get 4%,
Right.
But
No, I
with
agree
with
with
there
that.
being nothing,
Yeah.
it's just, whoever pissed off a department head last week, maybe they don't get nothing,
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe it wouldn't be like that, but it's arbitrary, and I just think that an employee can have a case to challenge that if we don't have something.
there's no accountability anyway,
And let's
I
pick up
just
this
guess I've
word
never
in
worked
mind,
at a job where there
seniority
wasn't a yearly
as
evaluation.
well.
Or, yeah.
True, yeah.
I didn't hear what you said, Bob, I'm sorry.
Seniority ought to be in there as well.
Take consideration. I
Yeah.
think that, while I don't disagree, if you're talking about cost of living, like Doreen mentioned earlier, 3% of $15 an hour is significantly less than 3% of $19 an hour. And so, when you do it across the board percentage, it does benefit those that have been here a little
The
longer.
seniority, yes. I'm in agreement with that.
So moving right along, still talking about payroll, but Doreen had asked specifically about fringe. So I even took it a step further, and we pay a healthcare stipend. I don't know, Bob, if you're familiar with this, but a few years ago, the cost of healthcare in the city providing that became very cost prohibitive. And so the board at that time decided to give a healthcare stipend of $7,200 per year per employee
For insurance.
To
for
help them
insurance
out.
purposes.
Yes.
But legally, we can't say,
You have to.
you have to spend $600 on a health insurance policy.
Right.
That's up to the individual employee. So, I did some checking just to see what healthcare similar policies. I may have put a copy of that in your packets. It seems like Carrie had, Specialty Risk do a, cost analysis for a policy for 14 employees. And I really thought I put that here, and I apologize that I didn't.
Well, I
But
mean, you
the
put numbers
policies,
in
yeah, the policies range from 109,000 to 143,000, just the 4 different choices that Specialty Risk gave us. And we're still realizing significant savings from that, doing a stipend. I know that stipends aren't ideal if you end up having an employee that didn't use it wisely, but I also feel like that,
That's your problem.
that's their choice, and
Yeah.
it's their loss if they don't use that for that, ultimately.
Boy, that insurance did rise, didn't it?
Mhm.
Most double.
Yeah. And insurance is rising anywhere from 12 to 19% per year. I have an opinion of that, but that being said, 12 to 19% per year increase for health insurance is insane. The stipend is in effect saving the city tens of thousands of dollars. And the board can, if they decide, can pass this budget, which I recommend because we can't go into July 1st without a budget. What we can do is pass the budget with exceptions, with payroll to be discussed at a later time.
Can we not go into closed session tonight?
You have to post it at least 24 hours in advance for closed session.
Post it for
meeting.
tomorrow then.
Mhm. I was hoping to not be here tomorrow. We had a really short agenda and have 45 people come into my house, but if I need to be here, I will.
Was the
This had
city
same
clerk
thing
gonna be
happen
here?
last year. Yeah, Sandra was gonna be here.
We can discuss that with,
I think personnel matters. If she's never been in that position, that would be unfair to her to expect her to be able to
okay,
answer
so can
questions.
we go without a city
Sure.
clerk?
Sure you
Then
can.
let's plan that. Okay, is that all right with you guys?
Oh, no, I mean,
I knocked on the wood. I
Uh,
knocked on the dang wood.
I haven't
I
seen the
knocked on the
agenda. Is it
wood.
out? Do we have it?
well, it's proposed.
The tentative, she's gonna post it shortly. We were gonna add the storm siren to it. I do feel like that it would be unfair to have a closed session based on employee merit and not have department heads there that can speak to the merit of an employee.
I feel like though we would just have the discussion that we could take to the department head. We wouldn't make a decision.
Okay,
We would just have points to discuss with the department head.
okay.
I personally, I mean, yes, I know the employees, I've met them, but I don't know their job, what they do and how well they do it. I would feel better if I had the department head there, to where I could say, okay, how's John doing? Or, I would rather have the
Well,
department heads than myself.
we can do, if we do this tomorrow night, and if we get it posted, we can do both. I mean, we you can say what you want to say to us in there,
Mhm.
and then right after that, we can bring the department heads in and.
But they're not all gonna be here.
Mama's not gonna be
Jim's
here.
out of town.
Yeah, she
I mean,
was.
I can be here.
Yeah,
I was
Jim-
hoping not
yeah,
to
Jim's
be,
coming
but
back Friday.
I can be here.
Jim's not in town either. And most of them are his employees.
And again, we don't have to settle this portion of it today or tomorrow.
But it'll need settled before July 1, which is next
No.
Tuesday.
I mean, payroll would just remain the same.
Okay.
You can pass the budget with the exception of payroll until further discussion is held, or,
Can it wait till the next meeting?
sure, we can do that whenever you want to. Everybody will just remain at what they are until that time. So, absolutely, you can wait.
Which was July the 10th. That's the next council.
And tell me again, what's wrong with just 2%? Raising all the wages, just 2%?
Proposal was for 3, so if it's gonna be, I mean, that's what, that we would just have to vote on that. On
It was
2
just
or
the
3
exclusion of
or-
anybody who hasn't worked here so many days.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was my issue, really, for the most part.
I wish we could afford to pay them all a lot more.
Yeah.
Just,
Some,
Yeah.
a lot
Yeah,
more.
I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, our hourly wages and our salaries are not huge. And so, my personal opinion is I don't always see what the struggle is when we pay significantly more for stuff that is not as important as our employees. Just my opinion, for what it's worth.
Well, I will say I agree with, if we do decide to go, 3% or 2% or whatever, it should be applied to everybody. Because, I mean, if you say that people that get a higher salary or a higher hourly wage don't get it or get a lesser amount, is that what you're talking about? Or get a lesser percentage because they make more, then, you're still,
You're getting punished for being in a.
yeah, you're still affecting their, how much their spend power for the next year.
No, I'm just gonna say, I feel like there's some that probably need 4% or more. That's what I wanna discuss.
Well, we can, you mean,
Individuals.
and like I said, I'm not qualified to really discuss the individuals because that's why I would like the department heads to.
For sure, for
yeah,
sure.
for sure. If everybody decides we wanna do merit-based targeted pay raises, and that's the decision of everybody, then definitely, I think.
How much more can our budget sustain, though, if we do more increase?
437,000. Straight rate, guys.
And stay in the black.
Yeah. I would need to do a little more research, and certainly we couldn't do the 7% that we did last year.
But then you look down and you look at these numbers and it was $90,000 more.
What's $90,000?
I
The difference
apologize,
from-
reminders.
To the proposed. Not including fringe and everything else.
Yeah, so let's just say we'll stick with our 3%.
Would you like a motion, Mayor?
For the budget? Sure.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the budget with the changes that were discussed today, excluding payroll.
Okay, I've had a motion to approve the budget that we discussed today, excluding payroll and with changes that were annotated during the discussion.
I'll second it.
And Bobby has seconded. All those in favor? Motion carries 4-0. Do we need to make a motion to carry this one over to the next meeting, or?
We can just,
Or
since it was
just
excluded
do it
here,
on
we
the
can
meeting?
just do it. Mhm. If we're ready to adjourn.
Make a motion that we adjourn.
Oh, I've had a motion that we adjourn from Doreen,
Second.
and Chrissy has seconded. All those in favor? Okay, meeting is adjourned at 4:11. Congratulations.